It's really a game of, if I put a dollar in, how many dollars do I get back out? And once you figure out the formula, then you can just duplicate it and go, okay, I have X amount of money going to this as one of my lead sources. And I know that I can expect this much coming back.
If you want to start writing more commercial business today, this episode is for you. Courtney and I brought in expert Josh Monen with Insurance Funnels, and he walks us through what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing as an insurance agency to start attracting more business owners through running Google ads. He's going to go through some of the mistakes that agency owners make, the questions that you should be asking vendors to make sure that you align with the right vendor, and most importantly, what you can do today to start driving more commercial business to your agency. With that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Michael and Courtney Weaver, and we have a very special guest with us today, Josh Monen with Insurance Funnels, and he helps insurance agency owners drive more commercial production to their businesses, which is exactly why we wanted to have you on, Josh. So first and foremost, welcome to the Buzz, baby.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, we're pumped. I mean, just looking at the current market, one thing that we always get asked, and this has actually been requested by quite a few of those of you in the Insurance Buzz community, Michael, our carrier, is telling us we need to write more commercial, but I really don't know how to write more commercial. So when me and you formed a relationship, and I was like, man, Josh, you're pretty sharp at what you do, I was like, we got to have you on the Buzz, baby. So thank you so much again for your time and coming on. So I'd love to just really dive into this. And so you specialize in running Google ads to help agents drive commercial production to their agencies, right?
Yes, exactly. So probably as niche as you can get there, but yeah, that's what we do here. Specializing in really paid advertising, but most of it is in Google. You know, we'll do some YouTube and Facebook and things like that, but primarily it's Google search ads because we want to get in front of those people searching for that type of insurance, you know, liability insurance for, you know, contractors or whatever the niche is, and getting those ads there and getting those type of leads. But yes, that's our main area of expertise.
Heck yeah. So before we dive into the ads, how to set them up successfully, maybe what agents should be looking out for, I would love to know, because this is one question we get asked a lot, Michael, how do I even figure out who I want to work with when it comes to commercial insurance? What businesses? And so if someone were to ask you that, or those individuals you work with, Josh, like what advice are you giving them?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you don't have your kind of niches established, there's a few different questions you can ask yourself, you know, to decide on where you want to focus on. You know, number one would be an analysis of your current book of business and just look at your different, you know, commercial lines. If you have, you know, some trends there, you might look at that and say, wow, I didn't realize I write so many restaurants or contractors or whatever it is. And so that could be one indicator. The other question to ask is, do you like that industry? You know, so do you want more of those types of clients? And so what are the type of accounts that you've worked on in the past where you think, man, I just really love that kind of, you know, industry. You know, I was talking to a guy just the other day who may join our program, and he specializes in insuring lumber mills, and he grew up around that industry. His dad was, you know, into, you know, lumber mills and things like that. He likes the blue collar aspect of it, and he gets along with those kind of, you know, owners. And so just to kind of think about, you know, who do you want to be working with is another thing to ask yourself. And then also there's the economics. You can like people as much as you want, but if it's not going to make you any money, you also got to be considerate of that. And so look at your average premium size for these different niches, and you know, look at what's going to be profitable, because of course if you're going to go out spend money on ads, there's going to be an acquisition cost, and then if you're specifically thinking about this for paid ads like Google ads, we'll probably get into this more later, but you can do something called keyword research and look at what the estimated cost for that type of click is, because those do vary. The competition varies, the cost varies, and so you want to choose the battles that, you know, you think you can win.
Okay, let's dive into that a little bit because I don't completely understand when you say we can do some keyword research and see how much it costs per click. So are we just Googling that, or what does that look like for the agent who's like, yes, I need to figure out how much, like how expensive these ads are going to be?
Yeah, great question. So Google actually provides a free tool. It's called Google Keyword Planner. And you can open that up and you can actually just start typing in different keywords. And when we say keywords, I mentioned one of them earlier, so we're just going to use that one. But say it's a keyword is liability insurance for contractors. That's a pretty generic one, and there's contractors in every city, so most people could relate maybe to that one. But you can put that in, and you can put that for your particular area if you're just going to focus on one state, or maybe one city, whatever it is. And you can put a few different ones there, and you could compare that to say restaurants or some other niche. Assisted living facilities is one of our clients. That's what they do insurance for. So you just put a few different ones after you've kind of did what we said earlier, go through your book, who do you want to work with, etc. Now you put those different ideas in there, and then Google will spit out an estimated top of page bid and bottom of page bid. And you can kind of get an idea, like if you want the prime real estate, when someone Googles something, we've all seen those ads up top, that's the prime real estate. And then you have ads, at the bottom, and those cost less. But you can see what the estimated cost per click is when you do that. And that's just a tool. I like to tell everyone that it's almost never, it's not exact. The only way to really know is run your ads. You actually have to just run ads because things change on a day by day, week by week basis. But it is good. This prevents you from just going in blind and being like, I don't know, we're just going to throw some money at this and see if it works. Don't do that. That's a good way just to donate money to Google, and they don't need any more donations. So doing the projections is, we call it the Google tax. A lot of people pay the Google tax, and I try to help agents avoid paying that tax. But yeah, that's keyword research basically in a nutshell.
Okay, so let's go back because I love this because I feel like I have a clear plan for commercial insurance. So the first thing would be, does my carrier even have an appetite for this kind of business? That's the first thing. The second thing, do I like writing this kind of business? And then the third thing would be, how much would it cost to advertise to this group of businesses?
Yeah, I was actually going to add that to what you said earlier, Josh, because a lot of insurance buzz communities, a lot of captive insurance agents, and so one thing that you want to number one focus on is, even if you like it, if there's not an appetite for it, you're going to waste your money. So if you right now are a captive insurance agent, you don't know where to get started with commercial leads, a really good starting point is to just communicate with your business line specialist or your carrier to see what are maybe the top 5 business niches that we're most competitive in my state or my area that you want to focus on. And that would be a really good starting point, because at least you know that when you talk to them, you're going to be competitive, and you have to be competitive in this type of environment.
Yeah.
Great point. Yeah, that's a great addition to that. Yeah, because otherwise none of this is going to work, right? So you could tick all the other boxes. If it doesn't tick that box as far as carrier appetite, it doesn't matter. So yeah, that's great.
Yep. So not to throw you off your question, but that is a really good point.
No, I think it's just kind of distilling because I don't have it. I mean, commercial is kind of cloudy for me. I don't have a great understanding of even like how to approach this. So I love that we're having this conversation. Now, when you talk about top real estate versus bottom real estate, are we talking thousands of dollars difference? Like, what's the difference in pricing between those two things?
It really just depends on the keyword. So there's not a cut and dry answer to that. It could be anywhere from, 25, 50%, difference in cost. But again, it really depends on when you run the ads, what is it going to cost you for that click? A little kind of tactical tip, if anyone's going to get in and implement this after listening to this, is you don't need to pay the recommended even minimum bid. You can even go a little bit below that, and because if you're still going to get clicks and you can get away with paying less, why not pay less, right? And so you can basically bid low, because the thing to keep in mind is this is one big auction, right? It's a big auction system with Google. There's all these keywords, and Google is auctioning off to the highest bidder. So if you bid low and you still win the auction, it's your keyword, it's your click. So you only need to spend enough to win win the auction.
Okay, I love that. So, I love the tactical tip, and we are big action takers. So, if you are listening to this podcast right now, that is a tip that you can go take action on right now. I would love to hear another tip. What do you think when you're seeing ads that insurance agents are doing on their own? What are some like things that you're going, don't use that word, or mistakes that they're making that are obvious that they can get rid of right now?
Yes, great question. One of my favorites too, because we do a lot of audits of existing accounts, and it's always a little fun for me just because I look at it and like, oh, good. There's a lot of opportunity here to improve, and it's encouraging to the agent too, because sometimes they have the belief, man, this is just what it costs, right? This is cost prohibitive. I don't even know if I should do it anymore. But we get in and be like, well, not necessarily. There's a lot of things you can do to really cut that down. One of them is actually not the ad itself or the keyword, but it's where that person goes to after they click on the ad. Because remember, you have the ads, but then they're all going to go somewhere. A big mistake people make when they do this is sending that traffic to like a homepage instead of a landing page. So a landing page, being a dedicated page for that particular niche. That's a no-no, because people can come to your website and they can get lost and then just leave, right? Or if they do go to a page that's dedicated to it, a lot of times I see very little information on that page, and it doesn't really portray you as the expert that you probably are with that particular type of industry. And so you really want to put your best foot forward. So when that person Googles something and then they click on that and then they go to that page, they look at that and say, oh, Michael, you are the expert in this. Like, I definitely want to talk to you. I'm going to fill out this form. I see you guys specialize in this. I feel comfortable. So using low converting landing pages or not using landing pages at all is a mistake. And then there's a lot of technical things too, as far as page load speed. You want to make sure your page loads quickly. That can affect your something called a quality score with Google. So Google will score you based on how well you basically run ads on their platform. And there's different things like, your page loading slow that will ding you, and therefore your ad cost will be higher because you can still run on their platform, but you have to pay basically a premium to do that. So there's that. And then things like having your SSL certificate. I just looked at one of these last week. We were doing an audit, and another agency was managing these particular Google ads for an insurance agency. And we were clicking on the ads, looking at them, and every one had that warning that you guys have probably seen, do you want to proceed to the site? Proceed with caution. I was like, oh no. I'm like, they're paying all this money trying to optimize everything, but sometimes you miss like the low hanging fruit. And all that was they had like an expired SSL certificate, but who knows how much that was jacking up their lead cost, because people are looking at that and be like, is this a scam? I don't know. I'm out of here. But they had already paid for that click. Google got their money. The agent, unfortunately, didn't get the quote. And so stuff like that, it really pays to do your due diligence.
So I could unpack.
This is
I
great.
love this so much because I'm always fascinated with funnels and marketing, because to me, marketing is this big machine where you put $1 in and you go, if I put $1 in, how many dollars do I get back out of this? But there's so many steps to this process. So do you work with agents on not only getting that landing page set up, but building a funnel and like a nurture sequence throughout that too?
Yes, we also do that, because it is important what happens right away, especially when somebody wants to speak with someone. So we have very simple funnels where it's just kind of a lead confirmation and NBO kind of funnel where the notification goes to the agent, the email goes to the person requesting the quote, and or text message if they've opted in for that and the agent is using that. So they know what to expect. Hey, we've received your request, for a quote. You're going to be someone's going to be in contact with you within whatever it is, and sometimes at that point the agent's sales process takes over. Other times they do want more automation, and so that just depends on kind of what their SOP is for how they handle it. And you got to be careful because you just don't want to automate something when a actual sales process, of course, is going on. You guys are the sales experts, you know that. So you don't want to make yourself look foolish, right? Where an automated email comes out from you and then you're also sending an email, 2 minutes later. So, but yes, we can, that's one of the things we do with the funnels.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, the more I'm thinking about this is because, look, we have a story where we invested a significant amount of money in ourselves to learn how to do SEO back when we were agency owners, and even some of these paid ads. And what I found is it was really difficult for me to be an insurance specialist and also be an ad specialist and a SEO specialist. And so if you're an agent right now listening to this and you're really wanting to dive into commercial leads, look, he just walked through some of the biggest mistakes agents make, from not writing the right copy to having the correct landing pages to making sure you have a nurture process, which takes a lot of upfront work if you've never done this before. And so anybody listening to this right now, if you're wanting to get into this space, I would highly recommend, look, we always say this, time and attention are by far our most important assets. It's hard for you to be an insurance specialist. It's hard for you to be a leader in your agency. It's hard for you to sell. It's hard for you to be a community liaison. Now we're just going to stack on something else that you got to be an expert in. And so the more that you talk about this, the more I'm like, man, you better partner with experts. That's what we found in our business. Like, the more experts that we partner with, the more success that we have with what we're intending to do versus trying to do it ourselves.
Yeah, but I want to give some questions that we can ask these vendors. Like, when somebody comes to you, Josh, what questions should they be asking a commercial specialist like yourself who's driving Google ads? What questions should agents really take to a vendor like yourself?
Yeah, that's great, because you got to decide, like, are you going to become the expert, like you're saying, Michael, like, or are you going to try to hire the right person? And then, it's the whole, like, who, not how, I love that book, by Dan Sullivan. And so if you're going to become really good at hiring the right who's, that's a skill in itself, right? So, and especially if it's in an area where maybe you're not as familiar, like, what questions do you need to ask, So number one would be, like, do they understand the industry, And so I think sometimes people are like, oh yeah, insurance, plumbing, hairstylists, like, we do it all. And maybe they do a good job, but not that our, every industry is different. I understand that, but there are so many different nuances with the insurance industry that I think a lot of marketers aren't aware of that until they actually step into it, and they're like, "Oh, okay, I didn't realize it was this competitive. I didn't realize, like, I didn't realize there was this much compliance. I didn't realize, and so you don't want them learning on your dime."
So that magical C word, compliance.
Yay!
Every insurance agent's waiting. They're like, "Are they going to talk about it? Are they going to bring it up?"
That's the fun part. So yeah, it's just, things like that. Like, have you guys had experience, in the insurance industry? And you can let them know, hey, it's not a deal breaker. Just want to know, we can be lighthearted about it, but maybe it will be a deal breaker though for you. But that's one thing. And then another question to ask is, like, on the creative process, like, how much of that do they handle? Do they handle all of it? And let me define by creative process what I mean. So with advertising, with specifically PPC, pay-per-click ads, what we're talking about, there's the creative as far as writing the ads. So the copy for the ads, that's one part of the creative. Or if you're doing image display ads, things like that, or videos, if you're running YouTube ads, that's all considered the creative. But so is the landing page that we were talking about earlier that they'll go to, the design and the copy there. So we refer to them as, are they just button pushers? And they could be really good button pushers, like setting up the campaign and everything, but then they don't have, like, a creative bone in their body, and that can be a problem. So maybe they're not very good at writing copy or doing design. And you want to find that out. And of course you want to, just ask that in a nice way. Hey, do you all handle the creatives, or would someone on our team be expected to assist with that or do that? Because I've seen situations where people have gotten involved in deals and they thought that the company was handling it all, and then they're like, oh yeah, now we need you to write these ads and create this page, and they're like, what? Like,
so you
yeah, exactly. Like, we thought
that's a heavy list.
That would be the conversation I would be having. Like, that's why I hired you. What are we doing?
Wait, now I'm a copywriter? What the hell?
Yeah. So, it's like, and most of them, I say that only happens 10 to 20% of the time, but it does happen. So it's worth crossing that bridge. And then also I would ask about conversion tracking. We didn't get into that yet, but almost every audit that we do, we see something wrong with the tracking. And tracking is, as you guys probably know, it's one of those things, it's never 100% perfect. So it's not like you're ever going to achieve perfection, but there can be things that are so broken and that it's just your campaign will never work until those things get fixed. So you just want to ask, well, will they be able to take a look at the tracking, kind of do an audit of that, let them know, hey, we don't know if it's set up correctly. Can you or someone on your team come in and look at all that? And if something needs to be fixed, is that included, or would we have to pay additional for that? So yeah, that's a question. And then, yeah, I think those are the big ones, and then just, of course, like, do they have a track record? Can you see any case studies? This kind of standard hiring process. And one other thing would be communication. And of course, this is something that you probably won't find out until like more after you engage, but the more that you can try to test those waters beforehand, like how well are they at, getting back to you and things like that. If you could see an example of the type of reporting that they would be providing you, that's always nice, because sometimes it's very detailed, very helpful. Other times it's like, feels like back of the napkin, here you go. And you're like, whoa, where'd this come from? So just get an idea of what sort of data they'll be communicating with you on a weekly or monthly basis. And will you have the opportunity to meet with them every month and give them feedback and things like that? Or are they going to kind of disappear after things are set up? So
those are so good.
Yeah, those are great.
Those
questions.
are all lessons that we've paid
Learned
a
the
lot
hard
of
way.
money for. So
Yeah.
that's really good.
I don't have them written down, but I'm just going
Yep.
through, like, what are the things that I've ran into over the last, decade. Yeah.
I want to be really honest about ads and the runway for it.
Yep.
So let's set some expectations. If somebody comes to you and they want to work with you on ads, what time frame should we expect before we start seeing some traction?
Yeah, that's good. I say really commit at least 3 months at the bare minimum, but really 6 months. It's not to say you're not going to get any leads and nothing's going to happen for 6 months. It's the 6 month, 3 to 6 month period is really getting it optimized, getting it dialed in, because you will start getting leads, right away. You turn it on, you're targeting keywords. It's just how much is it costing you to get that lead? And at the beginning, it might not be pretty, right? It might be like, ooh, and you have to resist the temptation to like, just shut this down. You let it run for a week and you're like freaking out and doing the math and like, I'm going to go bankrupt running these. I can't do that. You got to devote a testing period and a budget, and know that, especially that first month or two, it's allow some time to get things dialed in. I mean, we had one, I'm looking at it over here, where we launched, and this is this niche was, they were going after assisted living facilities. So that was their niche, right? Senior care owners. And when we initially launched, their cost per lead was so high. It was $426 per lead. And that was a lot for them, way more. And then, but by month 2, it got down to $370. By the 3rd month, it was $341. By the 4th month, it was $208. And then I forget exactly, once we got it under the $100 per mark, it might have taken 6 to 8 months, or maybe even closer to 12. But I don't have that in front of me right here. But as you can see it, we were able to chip away at it. But if they would have just thought $426 a lead, shut that thing down, and now they've been going strong for 8 years, and their average cost per lead right now, as I'm looking at it from last year, is $93 per lead. They had 845 leads last year. So, but if they would not have committed to that, they wouldn't be enjoying that steady stream, So there is an uncomfortable period to go through where you got to go through the testing.
Yeah, so I think this is really important for us to talk about, because in the beginning, when running ads, you, the expert, are also trying to dial in what works, what doesn't work. So what like just everything that you're doing. And so it is the importance of an agency owner. And I'm sure you have this conversation with, hey, the patience with the process, like, hey, 90 days minimum, you're painting that picture. But I think that's really important, because in our experience, it takes a minute to figure out what ad is going to hit. And so you waste a lot of you're learning. You're learning. All right. This is that life tax that all of us learn as entrepreneurs and just in life in general. But it takes a minute to figure out what ad hits. And once you figure out the ad that hits, that's when the ROI starts coming in, because that's when is this fair, Josh? Like, this is just, I'm just speaking from our experience. Like, we've spent a lot of money trying to get ad copy to hit, and it just doesn't hit. It doesn't hit. And then when it does hit, it's like, boom, we're going to double, triple, quadruple down on this ad because it is getting the click ratio that we want.
Yeah, that's a great mindset, Michael, that you're talking about, is going in there with proper expectations, but having expectations, right? I mean, this is your money, so it's not one of those, hey, we're always testing and hopefully it'll work. No, there's got to be some benchmarks that, okay, month one, what are the projections? What are we aiming for? What's kind of like a great goal? What's like medium? What's, this is really not working? Have those conversations with whoever is handling the marketing, and where should you be at by month 2, by month 3? Are we on track? Because it is your money, and you should care about it more than, whatever vendor you're hiring, but make sure those expectations are clear. So the other side also has a fighting chance. They know what success is like. Just don't be shy at all with the money talk, especially with paid ads. And I think it's a little different than like maybe SEO. SEO is really effective too, and we do some of that as well. But that's a little bit harder to gauge, like exactly down to the penny, right? It's more of a longer term play, and PPC also can be that way. But you're spending those dollars from day one, and leads are coming in from day one, right? So you got to get the numbers dialed in. You got to know what your target cost per acquisition is. What is your average revenue for that campaign? What's your lifetime value? What can you essentially afford to pay to go buy that type of customer? And are you on track with these new campaigns to hit that or not? And it's the nice thing about it. It's scary to run paid ads. I'll acknowledge that. It's like investing or buying stocks. It's like you're putting money out there and you're hoping to get a return, and it doesn't always happen. But if you know what your targets are, and you protect kind of your downside, go back to the stock analogy. If you're like, hey, I'm going to go into this trade, buy this stock, and I'm going to stay in it, but if it dips below this number, we got to call this, so have your kind of stop losses, if you will, and say, hey, the down, it doesn't, you shouldn't walk away with this and say, okay, we're going to do a 3 to 6 month test and not know what we are risking, right? You should have that all communicated and laid out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gamble and it is a calculated risk, but it's some of the things that we've already talked about, like, hey, talking to your carrier, who are you competitive with? What five businesses should we be targeting? Great. Now I'm going to align with an expert that's going to help me create the copy that's actually going to get someone to click. Okay, great. And so my question for you would, Josh, and I don't know if you work with clients on this or not, but okay, so if we're going to have a $2,000 a month ad spend, when you're creating these ads, are you testing them with smaller ad spends? Like, we're going to try $100, $200, $300 towards this ad, $200, $300 towards this ad. Is that what you're doing to test it to see which one hits, or what does that look like, or what would be something that an expectation an agency should have working with an expert like you when getting started?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so what we'll do is, if clients come to us and they say, hey, we have these 5 niches, maybe like you just mentioned, and if they say, using your example, we want to spend $2,000 a month, we might look at that and say, okay, this is great, but given everything that we're seeing with maybe the keyword research, looks like these 2 are kind of head and shoulders over these other 3 as far as maybe the cost or the competition level. We're going to recommend concentrating on those 2, trying to crack the code, and let's get those profitable, right? And then once those are established, okay, now let's look at breaking into that 3rd on your list and that 4th, because you do need enough ad spend budget to have enough firepower to go in and win the auctions that you want to win. So if you are spread too thin, sometimes you can't even do a proper test. And so it really depends on what you're going after. And like, are you going to be just in one state, multiple states? That's also something too. You just don't want to be spread too thin, whether it's too many different niches or too many different locations. You want to concentrate on the ones that you are confident you could win.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. I love that we had this conversation, because my mindset prior to really diving into ads in our businesses was, oof, I don't know if I want to spend my money that way. And now after going through it, it's really a game of, if I put $1 in, how many dollars do I get back out? And once you figure out the formula, then you can just duplicate it and go, okay, I have X amount of money going to this as one of my lead sources. And I know that I can expect this much coming back. And I think having somebody like you, Josh, who is so transparent in an industry that we don't know how Google ads work. Like that's not our area of expertise. Having somebody like you to explain, we need to turn this ad off, or we need to dial it up here, or this is your ROAS. This is what you're getting as a return. We need to adjust because this number is really, really low. I think is really the key. And I appreciate you sharing those questions on interviewing experts before you hire them, because that's huge.
Yeah, I just think of, so right now with the internet lead world specifically, agency owners are trying to figure out, what do I do? And I believe that a lot of agency owners are really focused on that commercial lines production. And when you think about diversifying your book of business, diversifying your marketing plan, I think that ads absolutely need to be a part of your marketing strategy, because it's just like, I say this a lot, but when you go fishing, if you have one line in the water or you have 5, what's going to give you the most likely chance of catching a fish? Well, if you have 5 lines in the water versus 1, this is just another line that you can have in working with an expert or doing it yourself. I mean, Josh, I know that you have a 6-week class where you teach agents how to do it themselves. So regardless if you want to pay to learn how to do this yourself or you pay an expert, it doesn't matter. But I do believe that that's the best thing about insurance is you have your personal lines business, you have your financial services business, you have your commercial business, to where if you can diversify your book, you're never reliant on one aspect of the business, to where if personal lines is super volatile and all of a sudden your company decides to turn off your auto rates, for example, to where you're just not competitive, well, you still have the financial services and now commercial book to lean on, to where you don't have to say, oh shit, how am I going to pay my bills this month?
Yeah.
So I love that we're having this conversation. Josh, this has been great. If somebody wanted to work with you, follow you, like, what's the best way for them to do this?
Yeah, this has been great. The best way would be just go to the website. It's INS, like insurance, insfunnels.com. And we actually have a free guide if people want to take advantage of that. I touched on some of the common mistakes, but it's the 5 fatal Google ad mistakes insurance agencies make and how to avoid them. And that's just insfunnels.com/mistakes. And that will get you on the email newsletter list and everything like that. But that's probably the best way.
Yeah, and we'll include your handout as well in the show notes. So y'all, you can just go down to the show notes, click on it. It'll take you directly to Josh's page to be able to download that. Josh, this has been fantastic. You got any other questions for him?
No, we are action takers. So I'm going to ask the same thing that I always ask. Text us 816-727-7610, the thing that you are taking action on today. Josh, this has been so much fun. I loved having this conversation.
I've enjoyed it too. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Michael. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you and all of those tuning in today. Look, we appreciate you so much. Continue to let us know who you want to talk to, what struggles you have, what areas of focus you want, so we can bring in experts like Josh. Other than that, as always, time and attention are by far our most important assets. We appreciate you spending time with us today on The Buzz. Go out and make it great.